competition in Taiwan's presidential race heats up. Foxconn founder Terry Gou announces his bid to run as an independent candidate for the January 2024 ballot and calls for Taiwan and China to resume direct talks. Picking up on that headline, Mr. Gou says he wants to stand for the top post in next January's elections because he thinks the ruling party is corrupt and unable to offer a bright future for the island. Joining us now from Taipei is Ross Feingold, Director of Business Development at SafePro Group. Thanks very much for your time today, Ross. You know, some people say all the signs were there. Mr. Gou has been very active these past couple of months, holding rallies, releasing a book about his achievements, and now we're looking at a four-cornered fight. What is Mr. Gou going to bring to the table?
It's a great question because all the polls show that his support level is hovering around 9% versus the other three previously announced candidates. I suppose his value proposition is obviously his extraordinary success in business as the founder of the Foxconn high contract electronics manufacturer, which makes iPhones and other IT equipment. And he's been extremely successful. Obviously, he has large operations in China. He's familiar with the Chinese leadership. So that's probably going to be another one of his selling points, that I'm the guy who can negotiate with China and maintain the status quo and peace between Taiwan and China. But again, up to now, his support level has been far behind what it would take to actually win.
Yeah, I want to talk about his popularity and his business ties in a second. But first, let's talk about Mr. Gou's Mainstream Opinion Alliance. He advocates an alliance with Kuomintang's Ho and TPP's Ko to bring down the ruling DPP. What's your take on that strategy?
As of now, it hasn't worked. From the perspective of are the other candidates, Ho Yo-i from the Chinese Nationalist Party or Kuomintang, Ko and-je from the Taiwan People's Party, are any of them willing to give way and form some kind of coalition, some kind of joint ticket? Somebody would have to give up being the number one, being at the top of the ticket as the presidential candidate, and say, in the interest of unity, I'm willing to be the vice president, or if we win, I'm willing to be, for example, the premier or some other government role. So for many months, there's been all this speculation whether or not the non-democratic Progressive Party camp could somehow coalesce and reach unity. But again, so far, that just simply hasn't happened. So he could call his ticket the Mainstream Opinion Alliance, but as of now, there isn't really an alliance. It's just him, and he's just trying to run based on who he is, and he doesn't have a joint ticket with the other leading candidates who are running against the incumbent party.
Mm-hmm. Foxconn and Mr. Gou, they're synonymous, even though he stepped down 4 years ago. Are his business links going to pose a challenge? Will they be targeted by opponents?
Well, it won't be targeted by the non-DPP candidates, but it's certainly going to be targeted by the ruling party. And I think also we're going to see a lot of foreign commentators as well saying, how could Taiwan possibly elect as a president somebody who's made such an enormous amount of money in China, which threatens to take military action against Taiwan? Not just enormous amount of money that he's made, but all the other issues, whether that's employee labor rights, environmental issues that manufacturing causes in China, and just his general concept of negotiating with China. I think we've seen in recent months and years that whether it's the United States or other Western countries, they've been very supportive of the current government in Taiwan's policies towards China, and they're not pressuring Taiwan to negotiate with China, and Gou is saying something very opposite. So again, I think we'll see a lot of criticism from William Lai Ching-te, the candidate of the ruling Democratic Progressive Party, and also from overseas as well, saying, how could you have as a president a guy who maintains such close relationships with the Chinese government?
In terms of cross-strait ties, Ross, Mr. Gou has emphasized direct negotiations with China, also for Taiwan to be less reliant on the U.S. He's more progressive than his counterparts. So how does China view him, and how will they view this run for presidency?
It's always a matter of speculation. Does China have a favored candidate? A lot of commentators will just assume that China favors the Kuomintang, the Chinese Nationalist Party, or now maybe they'll favor Terry Gou because of his business ties to China. But I think that's all a matter of speculation. Look, China has a policy towards Taiwan, which is built around unification and the potential use of military force, which they won't renounce. And who's ever president of Taiwan, I don't think that's really going to change what China is going to continue to do. They're going to continue to say they want to unify. They're going to continue to invest and improve their military capabilities. And whoever is president of Taiwan will have to deal with that, whether the president favors the current policy. So if Mr. Lai wins or one of the other candidate wins and returns to negotiation, again, China is still going to continue to do what it plans to do with regard to Taiwan.
Mr. Gou has long had presidential aspirations. The first time he ran for Taiwan's highest office was in 2019. He failed to win a KMT primary then. So what has changed?
Well, he didn't win the KMT nomination this time around either. They didn't hold a primary this year. It was more like a draft process by the party leadership. And it came down to the candidate who eventually was nominated, Ho Yo-lee, and Terry Gou. And the party leaders decided not to select Terry Gou. So he's already a two-time loser within the Kuomintang selection process. And at the time in May, he indicated that he would support the Kuomintang's candidate. But over the past few months, that's clearly changed. He's been very frustrated. And I think a lot of Kuomintang or non-DPP supporters are just frustrated by, frankly, the terrible performance of the Kuomintang's candidate, Ho Yo-lee. And that's why he's struggling. He's hovering around 20%, and in some polls even lower. And not everybody is sold on Taiwan People's Party, Ko-wen-je. So people are looking for an alternative, and Terry Gou thinks that, given my prominence in Taiwan society, my success in business, and obviously it's very important, he could self-fund the campaign. He doesn't need to raise money, but he does have this most immediate challenge, though, which is he needs to get about 280,000 plus signatures on petitions in order to qualify for the ballot. And he doesn't have a very long period of time to do that. So that'll be his first hurdle.
Yeah, and you mentioned the 9% in the polls, which kind of makes you wonder. Okay, we're running out of time, but quickly, the Democratic Progressive Party's victory in 2020 was led by the youth vote. How much will Mr. Gou appeal to the younger Taiwanese, do you think?
Now, right now, most of the youth vote seems to favor Ko-wen-je of the Taiwan People's Party. It's not clear if Terry Gou could really connect with younger people. He could connect more maybe with older voters who are looking for someone who says, I could bring you stability, economic prosperity.
All right, Ross, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for coming on today. Ross Feingold, Director of Business Development at SafePro Group.